Hello, so this is a submission video for my final portfolio. So to start out, I'll just go through each of the form questions. So the first one is, how was I, more efficient in applying my curiosity and creativity? I would say a lot of it came from the readings I did over the semester um, with when I was given the option to either program exercises or to take notes on the textbook and apply them. So to show an example of both, I'll say a good example is like in like week 5 when we were doing error handling. I decided to do like custom error messages, but also do like assert statements too as well. This one I had to look them on W3 schools on the exact syntax and how to use it. It wasn't that hard. Um, but I was curious in this one and other examples where I wanted to actually program JavaScript to either do like sorting things or to like do whatever, because I actually wanted to apply what I learned. And there was other weeks, like in week 9 for example, where there's things where it wasn't as, I guess, easy to program, but I still took notes. And the textbooks had a lot of examples that you could like copy and paste into your editor. You might have to do some tweaking to get it work. But I still did that because I was curious on seeing like how it worked. So like in week 9 when we learned about animations or canvas, I wanted to see how that worked actually in HTML. So I would copy and paste code exercises and just try and see for myself the lines of code actually working, which overall I thought was pretty cool, especially when I saw this little square like starting to turn. But I would say that would be a example of my curiosity and creativity of programming on my own, but also taking notes and applying the examples the reading provided. Becoming more dexterous and exploring my environment. I'll just simply say on this one, like I used like the web docs a lot. I used like W3 schools for like looking up simple things like the certs example I mentioned earlier, or like Stack Overflow. I just use like a lot of little things just to try and figure out just like little pieces here or there, whether it was with some of the weekly readings or especially in my final project trying to get some of the things to work properly. I just a few different sites, not necessarily one in particular, just like a lot of different ones. For like enjoying, like learning from others, I would say like a lot of the team projects we did, whether it was like with the hiking app or like with this like drum kit, like I thought it was like very cool to learn from my group, to see like the ways like they were thinking, to help them learn, and they helped me learn in different ways. I'd say an example of maybe like for just one example of how they helped me learn is like here in the JavaScript, when we hit a key, like to make it light up, you can cause a you can have a class list be added to it to like add some style to it. And we were trying to figure it out, trying to figure out like this transition of it where you can hit it, then it just slowly fades. And it was a guy in our group named Steven that was like, hey, I went on to like MIDB or whatever, and I saw like this little CSS thing, like why don't we try that? And we tried it and it worked. And I asked him, hey, can you take me to the page of where you found this documentation? He did and showed me it. It was actually very interesting. So the divide and conquer approach, I would say a great example is my final project. So this is like my final project here, where I made a weather app for like 5-day weather, where I made it like here, where it's like actually like functioning. It has like the dates that come in. You can change it to like different weather here, and it'll just bring it for that city. And how I broke it up into different projects. So, I had this wireframe first. So I was like, okay, I have this wireframe. So for the first week of the project, so about, I would say started on this maybe 3.5 weeks ago, where the first part is I just worked on all the basic HTML, CSS, just got all that laid out. The next step of it is I worked on the API, and I worked on the API, got the links to work, and then as soon as I got the links to work, I then that same week used fetch to simply bring it in and see if I can get the object to show up in my console. And then the week after that, well, and I guess that first week as well, I should mention, is I just worked on just getting simply one city to show up on the screen. There's one city to show up. Then the week after that, I brought in local storage and did another small things with that to just like save the object, to do other things with it, to the point where I was able to bring in all 3 cities. And then the last week is I just worked on bugs of, especially with the drop down statement I had, it was give me a little fit where it wasn't quite working right. I was able to get around it and solve the problem. I used like a lot of different console.logs. I commented out like blocks of code to like try and narrow down where the bug was, and I eventually did find where the bug was, which leads me to the next question of that. Like I said, I use a lot of console.logs, commenting out, debugging, walking through the code. But I found the problem where that was in the HTML for my final project here. Just scroll up to it. So it's like here in lines 41 and 42, where I found that for some reason these types did not like interacting with each other. I couldn't quite figure out how to get them to interact like nicely with each other. So ultimately, what I did, just because I spent a lot of time on it, I couldn't quite figure that part out. Like I narrowed down where the bug was, but how I got around it was I simply just put a lot of it in the same file. Not necessarily all of it, but a lot of it. And it's not like that, like too big of a file, so I was okay with it. But I just thought it was interesting, just the types of files in JavaScript, and then doing the reading on that and trying to sort that out. But it did help just using like the console and even double checking local storage until I was finally able to narrow down the process. And it took about 2 hours to be able to find that one tiny little bug. But yeah, and I would say the last part with the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I gave myself a 3. I would say overall, like I did learn a lot, with the API, local storage, classes, all that. I would say the one thing that kind of brought my score down is I just felt like I just couldn't figure out just like this part of getting the export to work. And I got the export to work, on like other past projects, like the first challenge, and I wish I could have used it here, but like I said, these types are giving me a fit. So I just still include it in one file, but still try to apply the other topics of like classes and and building even HTML in the JavaScript itself. I really liked that from the high cap, so I tried applying it here. Just little things like that. But I still gave myself a 3 because I felt like I really wanted to try and figure it out, but I couldn't quite figure it out all the way. But overall, I would say those are my scores, and this is just my final project. If you want, you can go to my homepage and you can just kind of mess with it, and just kind of look around like yourself and just see how it interacts, just whatever you feel. But I would say that is my video for my portfolio.